minute, fellas. Look here. Stand by.
One for C-Lab, two for Draw Eagle, three for Wolverine to round out the trio. In this episode, everybody dies.
Broadcasting live from inside the Power Band on location in Zamunda. This is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm your host, Kevin, also known as the Wolverine, along with my intrepid companions, Zarhiko.
Hey.
Also known as Ben. And C-Lab Forever.
Yo.
Also known as Chad. Folks, welcome to the podcast. This week we are revisiting the wonderful world of Zamunda to talk about Coming to America and Coming to America 2. Everybody knows who's in all these movies, so I'll skip all that. Let's get to it.
In the vein of Bill and Ted, it was a nice nostalgic romp, I thought.
Yes.
Yes.
Right on. Off to a great start here. It was a good nostalgic romp. I do have some thoughts.
Gripes of Kev even?
I don't know if they're quite gripey or not.
Totally unrealistic lion whiskers.
Yeah, totally. I mean, they were fake. It was obvious. The bamboo was too. Firstly, I'll just say what I probably don't need to say is that the original movie is so good. So good that I've seen it so many times I didn't even really need to watch it. And I didn't. This film, for me, personally, like Eddie Murphy was my hero in the 80s. I loved that he would put makeup on and play these other characters, him and Arsenio Hall. And to me, I don't know, that was just the coolest thing ever. And, as a young person and an actor, I wanted to do that. I think the original one the story's not like crazy original, but it's an original story aside from that main plot point. And it's really brilliant, man. And the comedy and the acting is fantastic and all of that sort of thing.
It's definitely a Hall of Fame comedy. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, it's no doubt. Yes, absolutely a Hall of Fame comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have said that better. It's a staple. If we were living in the old style of like, this is on TV, I would still watch it every time it was on. It's that good. And I love the tie-in with Trading Places, about the Dukes. And they even continued that thread in this sequel. And I'll segue to the sequel there. There's been this weird rash over the last 15 years of these like sequels coming out like 10 years later, 15 years later. And this one is 30 years later. And I'm not really a fan of any of them. I mean, we kind of touched on this on Bill and Ted's, and I think that Bill and Ted's was probably the best to date of sort of wrapping up an old story, I guess.
Better than Star Wars. Oh, it's a death.
Whoa!
But I mean it. The Bill and Ted third movie was better than the entire new trilogy of Star Wars movies. So I agree with your point.
Yes, I totally agree with that. That being said, I think that...
It's true what many of you have heard.
Is that a Matrix death?
That is.
Machines!
This movie, being a 30-year-old sequel, they did the best that they could with it. And I think that it's great. I don't think that... I mean, it's kind of predictable that they're going to use a lot of the same devices and, the characters and some of the jokes. And that was fine. I wasn't, like, laughing out loud like I did with the first one. It's not like the first one makes me, curl over and start laughing on the floor at this point. But it has that original cachet. I think that this one was a solid 30-year later sequel.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like anything groundbreaking or anything amazing. I mean, it certainly was great to see all of the original people. And I mean, literally every single one of them, including like the weirdos from the bars and stuff, The only one we were missing was Starfleet Captain Geordi LaForge's mom.
And Randall.
And Sam Jackson.
Mm.
But so it was good. I mean, it wasn't like amazing. It wasn't like crazy funny. I mean, I did have trouble holding my attention a couple of times during it, but it was solid. There, I'm done.
Yeah, I think it falls into the same category as Bill and Ted, where, as a standalone movie, it's nothing groundbreaking or amazing. But if you have nostalgia for the original movies, then and you're watching it with like a bit of a charitable mindset, then it's entertaining and fun. It's fun to revisit those characters.
Yeah, charitable mindset, I think, is a great way to put it, because I did have a charitable mindset and I quite enjoyed it, even though, like, it's never going to hold a candle to the original. But I kind of got like a fan homage bromage vibe. Like, it was almost like it was a fan movie or like a Rocky Horror acted out in front of the screen, kind of like fan love fest. But instead of it being a bunch of fans, it was like all of the cast, which was kind of cool. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It was kind of a love letter to the original in a way.
Yeah, similar to Bill and Ted's, actually. We said the same or something very similar on the Bill and Ted's episode.
Yeah. I kind of liked the element of the sequel where Akeem becomes more like his father as he gets older and is kind of backwards. I don't know about you dudes, but like as I get older, and maybe more particularly like the way I'm hanging out with my kids, like I realize why my parents did what they did and acted the way they acted and how similar I am to them and stuff. It's like I kind of vibe with that Akeem arc a bit, where he kind of like all of the people that love him kind of just slap him around at the end, are like, dude, come on, what the fuck you doing? And he comes to, which for such a, I don't know, lightweight plot, like it was kind of a cool element of that plot, I guess.
Yeah. I like that too. That was a good little thread there. And it definitely resonated with me as well.
There was a funny little bit where James Earl Jones didn't really want to get too far away from home, so he filmed all of his scenes, like his one or whatever scene, near his house, and nobody was in the room with him and stuff. So he just like, shot one side of the scene. And when he found out later that Eddie Murphy was the same age that he was in the filming of the first one, he thought it was hilarious, which I thought was kind of funny. So
what?
Yeah, evidently at the time, like James Earl Jones was 58 when the movie was being filmed, and evidently Eddie Murphy's the same age. So it is kind of interesting that just how much of a jump there actually was,
Huh. That is really interesting, man. I didn't realize that. And that's a nice little pre-nug. And here's another one, is that James Earl Jones was 88 filming this.
This is like, sounds kind of lame, but I thought he'd passed away.
I actually thought he passed away too. I was surprised when I saw him.
I don't know why I thought that, but
yeah, I wasn't sure going into watching it.
Yeah. No disrespect to Mr. Jones, but
surprised or either way, but I wasn't sure. I was like, is he still around?
Yeah.
He is.
It was nice to see him.
He is indeed.
That's good.
It was good. I'm glad you're not dead, sir.
I'm glad you're not dead, James Earl Jones.
Although we're talking about him this week, so you know what that means.
What's that?
Every time we talk about anybody we like, they die like 4 days later.
Oh, right, of course.
The curse of the podcast, yeah.
The curse of the micro podcast.
Exactly. Well, Morgan Freeman was in this briefly as well, and he's 83. So he's also getting...
Yeah, he was looking old.
Getting up there for sure. And Hal Amos, too, man. I mean, how old is Amos? Do we know?
Don't know, bro. It totally had a bit of a, like, where are they now kind of thing going on, like the fucking stupid listicle articles that are like
a little bit
before and after photos. And not even that it's a bad thing. Like, I kind of enjoyed seeing everybody again and being like, oh, okay. Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Fucking barking dog girl. Everybody was in this goddamn movie.
I know. They didn't leave a single stone unturned. Well, a few, but mostly they got everybody. Incidentally, John Amos is 81.
Hey.
So
mark that ejection down, shall we?
Well, I don't know, man, because I'm happy to take the ejection, but when you kind of like Ben did this the other week, it's like if you kind of doing it while you're rolling and you're not really being disruptive, I feel like everything is smooth.
Yeah, that's fair. The origin of the ejection death was you like leaving your own podcast, so that's reasonable,
right? I think it's kind of when just the idea of ejecting itself in physical reality is like you're gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like when you,
know,
bowed out
you're-
to listen to a saxophone solo for 10 minutes a couple weeks back.
Total ejection, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, Ben, do you have any high level on this, or what are your high level thoughts?
I mean, you could put all of my thoughts about Bill and Ted into a mimeograph machine and, just change some nouns and verbs around, and you would have my high level on this movie. It's
Sure.
I already really pretty much said it. It's, it's great to see all those characters again. And I almost thought they were gonna, forget Randy Watson.
Oh man,
They closed him out. I loved it.
one of my favorites.
And Sexual Chocolate, but they crammed that one in there, so I'm super psyched. But it's I watched some reviews that were like hypercritical of this, and clearly some people were of a different mindset going in. I think they were probably, I love Coming to America, the first movie. It's one of my all time favorite comedies. It's just amazing. It's one of those ones that I will really sit down and watch anytime I happen to notice it. It's hard to not. Like, I watched it before this just because I was like, you know what? I just want to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like I had to. I just wanted to, so it's that kind of movie. So I knew there was no way they were going to top it. And I feel like some people were really hoping for something, really hoping for a grand slam here. And,
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that at all. I was just thinking, well, this will be like a fun little nostalgic romp. And, I think they delivered in that department. So
I agree, man. It's similar to the original iPhone. You're never going to replicate inventing a smartphone that cool and that new and that different. Like it's never going to happen again.
yeah, well, sequels are sometimes, Empire Strikes Back, for instance.
Godfather 2.
Sometimes sequels are really good, but then that is a Star Wars death for me.
It was never going to happen here, though. It was just never going to happen.
I agree with Chad. I mean, it wasn't ever going to happen. I don't know what your mindset could possibly have been going into it to think that.
I think some people were expecting it, so.
Really?
Wow.
Clearly.
I guess.
It's got some pretty harsh reviews, so.
I just don't, I don't quite get how you think it's going to be better. Like, I guess, like, to go back to Star Wars since I'm already dead, being a massive, massive nerdgasmy Star Wars fan, like, I hoped that the follow-up trilogies, both of them, were going to be as good as the original trilogy, but, like, that was just hope. Like, there was kind of a very low probability of it ever really happening, so I don't know. I just feel like they got lightning in a bottle on this in 1988. Like, I saw a couple of things. They had some extras around the X-ray on Amazon, and it was like, we didn't realize how big of a thing this was going to be back in the 80s. So I don't know. Like, I just there's almost impossible to ever come even close to topping something that was like an unintentional cultural juggernaut. But people can be pretty weird these days, I guess, on the interwebs with their expectations.
Yeah, they sure can. No doubt. I mean, I think the fact that they didn't really know what they had when it first came out says a lot. I mean, a lot of some of the greatest films and some of the greatest cult movies are like that, where they were released, and everybody was just like, we're putting out this movie, we're putting out this piece. Sometimes, we really loved it. Sometimes we really didn't, in the case of Blade Runner, like making it was like a nightmare, but look at what Blade Runner's turned into,
Or Apocalypse Now, maybe.
Yeah. Or like Usual Suspects, like small movie, kind of whatever. And then like, that's a cult hit, man. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I feel sorry for the people that are that curmudgeonly. I mean, I'm a curmudgeon, but I never thought that this was going to even come close to the original. So therefore, I just like had a nice time watching it. And then I looked forward to watching the first one again. So
I don't know if I ever thought it would come close to the original. I think it's close to the original, but when you've got a lot of the same stuff going on, like, the joke, those particular gags, jokes, whatever devices are just, they're not as original. And I don't mean that in a super negative way. It's like it's just not the same.
It was just callbacks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, Ben makes a good point. I mean, Empire Strikes Back is, in my opinion anyway, the best Star Wars movie
agreed.
of all of them ever, and that is the sequel. So, and we just we did Blade Runner 2049 last week, and I certainly was gushing about how if you're going to make a sequel that many years later, like this is the way to do it. It was so standing on its own 2 feet. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
This is the first date Teresa and I have been on since the doctor separated us.
I suppose now that I think about it, if this was like a 5-year later sequel, I probably would have been disappointed.
That's fair, actually.
Yeah.
If it was closer to the original, I'd be expecting more. But,
That's an interesting way to view it.
These 30-year later things are, they are what they are.
Because through that same method, if Blade Runner 2049, as is today, was released 5 years after the original, like assuming that we could just disregard the special effects, that would have been mind-blowing to people back in the day. But just like getting rid of all that, like Blade Runner 2049, 5 years after the original, would have been like, yeah, this is good. Whereas I agree with you, this 5 years later would have been like, eh.
That's an interesting point to bring up. I mean, we've talked about timing a lot on this show. And, we've talked about Riddick-itis and being the victims of the wrong timing and, stuff coming out too late, not too late. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, I don't know. It's an interesting interesting space that keeps coming up.
And this was a COVID movie too, so.
Exactly.
Got bought out.
I wonder how it would have, on a $60 million budget, I wonder how it would have come out, what the take would have been if it had come out in the theaters.
I think that there would have been a big draw across a lot of people that wouldn't, I feel like a lot of these movies that are not made for me, for example, like the Tyler Perry Studios, some of the stuff that's more like made by African-American people for African-American people, like I feel like that demographic would have definitely lifted the box office for this outside of the normal blockbustery bullshit. Like I remember in San Francisco, the neighborhood I was living in was mainly a black neighborhood, and there's tons of barbershops all over the place, and there'd be posters in the windows for movies that I had just never heard of before, just never had any awareness of.
Yes.
And so I think like that kind of angle probably would have done well here. I just didn't ever realize how much of a juggernaut it was for the black community and whatnot until I saw the extras and the first kind of black fairy tale movie and stuff. So it just never dawned on me, even though it's quite obvious now that I think about it. But I don't know. You grow up in the cracker-ass island of Nantucket, you're going to be a little bit behind the times when it comes to some of those perceptions.
Sure.
From what I understand, it's done really well. I don't know how the fuck they do the Nielsen ratings now, where they're like 1.4 billion minutes watched. I don't really get that metric, but...
You mean like with streaming and so forth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I will say that I probably would have been one of the people to go out and see it straight away in the theater. But I would think that my guess would be is that a lot of people, like it would have had a huge surge like the first weekend, possibly the second. And then after people started talking about it, like less people would have gone to the theater to see it.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong. And now, like, ever since Ben said that, I can't stop thinking about that it could have been, it might have been, like a Blade Runner 2049 or something like that. It's tough when you're talking comedy versus, a dramatic film, a science fiction film, like especially science fiction, like you've got a lot of room to breathe and move in terms of where you want the story to go. I wouldn't want the job of trying to write Coming to America too, because it's like so many of the jokes, like now they're like culturally inappropriate. Society is so different, man. It's like, what can you say? What can you not say? It would be way harder to write this sequel just based on that one point, forget about the rest.
It's the same guys, I think, though, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think I saw that it was.
Let's have a look. This is an ejection, full on.
I guess kind of a necessary one, though. None of us know.
Yeah, it was the same guys, man.
There you go.
Yeah, at least two of them. There were 3 writers on this one, but the original had 2 writers, David Sheffield and Barry Blaustein.
According to Eddie Murphy, anyways, because he's sort of been doing the podcast circus. He had said that they've been working on trying to get the right script for this for quite some time. And, it's like finally the right thing came along.
Makes sense. You probably would bat it around for a long time trying to get it reasonable. Like a Ghostbusters relaunch or whatever, like you just really, all the old heads would want to take their time with it.
Yeah, as far as I understood it, was like they were all kind of surprised at how successful it was. The fact that it became a cult classic and, the fact that people were asking for a sequel in the first place. So.
Right. But similar to what you were saying earlier, like watching it again, the original again today, was just, it's such a delightful movie. It's just so much fun. So ridiculous. One of the earlier movies to my recollection with the actors playing multiple characters, to your point earlier, Kev. Like, it's just such a great movie.
Ah-Haaaaa!
Ah-Haaaaa! Yeah, that's interesting that's how it went down for him. I remember seeing a Schwarzenegger interview years ago, and the movie people were always asking was, when are you doing a Terminator sequel? So it's similar in that way, Like, I don't think they knew what they had.
Mm.
Good morning, my neighbors! Hey, fuck you! Yes! Yes! Fuck you too!
And maybe that's the segue right there to moving into talking about the original film.
Yeah, I was reading trivia nuggets from, I think it was the sequel IMDb page, and as I was reading them, I had the opening of the original movie in the background, where it's that really awesome kind of like Harry Belafonte-esque African song. And I ended up reading the trivia for 10 minutes, but that song's only 2 minutes. I just kept jumping over to Prime and starting it over and listening to it over and over and over again.
Nice.
It's just something about the way that movie starts up and just gets rolling is just, I don't know, just hits me in the right spot.
Yeah, there's a really great amount of anticipation there, but at the same time, it's very sort of calming and relaxing, as they go through the palace, and it's very everybody's waking up, and it's da 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 da, and it's you're not anxious per se, but you can't wait to see what's going to happen next. And even these sort of mundane things that they do as they're waking up are so lavish,
And silly.
And a little silly and a little outlandish that, you can't stop watching it. I mean, you're fascinated by it. I was, because I was I guess this is how what it's like to be royalty, for real. I mean, I think that's what I thought when I saw this originally.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not is, something different, but
It's probably not that far from the truth.
can't be. I mean, I don't know. You watch Game of Thrones, it's very different.
Yeah, that's true.
Stab you in the morning.
Pretty much.
Buckets of blood.
My lord.
Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. I would skip the royal wipers personally, but
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, I would too.
and the bathers and the dressers and the rose petals and the
The whole thing.
the whole fucking thing.
I would, the bathers, that would be fine. Not for the bathing, but the bathing itself, but
For the sex slaving?
the rest. What's that? All the what?
The sex slaving?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that I don't know. It's fascinating the way that opens up, and it grabs you and it holds you, and it's you're curious. You can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Everything's so. I think you're right. Over the top, outlandishly lavish. Rose petals, the table, all of the food, the way there's just a zillion million servants. Just every time you turn around, there's one right there with a glass of juice or a bowl of fruit or whatever. I think it was cool to see that.
In a way, I kind of liked how the first time you're what am I watching? The first time I ever watched this was I was in the nether regions of me just being so young. I have no recollection of it at all. So I have just no idea what I thought when I first watched it. But I would imagine it was what am I seeing? This is interesting and new and different and weird. But then, the silliness of, the way that there's 7 different people that help Akeem brush his teeth, is quite, I don't know, novel. You're just
Yeah,
that's funny,
wow.
that's silly. And then it comes back with, Leslie Jones fucking pimp my riding about the palace in that kind of opening sequence where she's just running around doing selfies and shit. It was pretty funny, man. I like the way they threaded the two movies together in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, no doubt.
God damn, boy, what's that? Some kind of weave or something?
There was some great little things, like that. I want to say too, like, just going to the second movie for a second, like, oh crap, I'm thinking of him as his character name, Laval Johnson, not the actor's name, and I can't remember the actor's name, but
Jermaine Fowler.
That's it, Jermaine Fowler. I thought Jermaine Fowler was great. Like, he was a good pick to be, that's a big role, man.
No doubt.
And I think he executed it well. Like, that's tough. You're coming into a 30-year sequel. You're still somewhat unknown as an actor, and it's like, gee whiz.
When you're up against 3 or 4-year-old Eddie Murphy in the original, like, that's a tough shoes to fill.
Totally. And then when you're acting opposite, 50-whatever-year-old Murphy and everybody else from the original movie, like legendary actors too, man, like James Earl Jones and John Amos and Morgan Freeman, even to a lesser extent, like that's big. No pressure whatsoever, dude.
Yeah, I don't envy him.
No.
He did well, though.
He did.
Yeah, he did. He did good. I really liked his haircut too. It was really sharp.
Yeah, somebody was saying that when he got his hairdo done in Zamunda, he looked a lot like Killmonger in Black Panther, which I thought was interesting.
Huh. Yeah, I never thought about that. I kind of had like a, kind of like if a white guy like had the same cut but with like a bunch of gel or like a product or like a kind of like an anime almost kind of.
Like a Goku hairdo or something?
Kind of. I mean, I don't know a specific anime because I don't know that much anime, but it had that kind of style. It was like kind of spiky and somewhat combed over. I don't know. It was just cool. Let's spend 20 more minutes on this.
I like the little segues every once in a while into the hairdos.
Sorry, man. I had that.
That's okay. I find it really funny. Like, it's just really good.
But yeah. Anyway, the kid did great. He did really
he did good, and he was really likable. I feel like Eddie Murphy. One of the strengths of the first movie is how much you're rooting for Akeem. He's such a good dude and has like the right. I don't know. He's like centered but unsure of himself, but a really good dude, and you just root for him the whole time.
He's young. He's cultured. He's centered, but he's also a little naive about the world. That's like his sort of killer combo. So you're always rooting for him, man. Yeah, absolutely.
The Lavelle kind of, I don't know if it was his intro. I think it was, where he's sitting there with Tracy Morgan and has the job interview. The dude in the job interview is like such a prick. I just love that.
And he's the grandson of the Duke brothers.
Yeah, see, I didn't really realize that at the time, which I probably should have. And I was going to drop it later as a nugget, so I'll call that a snipe. But yeah, no doubt, man. And I just love how stereotypically douchey he was about like just being such a piece of white bread. It was super funny.
Totally. White bread money.
Yeah.
Totally. I think I really enjoyed that small inclusion of the Dukes, the Duke and Duke.
No doubt. Considering
it was great. It was great in the first one. Like, I don't know. Trading Places is another movie that's, I'll watch it almost any time it's on. It's so good, man. Like the transformation of Eddie Murphy from essentially a bum to, high class, and just the way Dan Aykroyd dialed in that super white bread Winthorpe was just so damn good, man. And I love that he tied that into Coming to America. I thought that it was a little bizarre, in the sense of it catching you off guard, but I just love that they tied the two movies together. It was just kind of random how he did that, but he was like, all right, let's tie these two movies together and we'll make a little mini multiverse here, or universe, whatever.
The first extended universe.
Yeah, man. I thought that was a really cool inclusion, having the Duke brothers there laying in the filth. To extend that to the sequel was, it was a cool inclusion too. And then the two of them talking about like absentee fathers was just, it was funny because it was awkward and bizarre,
It was super funny. And calling him out for the blackface thing as he left. It's just like, no, it was Will Smith's Aladdin. It was Blueface. It's just like, oh my God, dude. It was great, dude.
You have derailed. Stop talking.
You've grown a mustache.
Were you guys down with the Leslie Jones character in this? I thought she was great.
I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
I loved Leslie Jones in this. I loved the addition of Leslie Jones and Tracy Morgan.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, Tracy Morgan. It's good to see him again. I haven't seen him since that really bad car accident or whatever he was in a few years back. So it's good to see him.
Yeah, some more like SNL alumni in there,
Yeah, he's funny as shit. That scene in what's his name's house, like when they're all like talking shit to each other and calling her a hoe and stuff, was super funny.
Yeah.
Leslie Jones was just so perfectly cast as well. Like she's hilarious in reality as well. She's got a great Twitter account, but she was just fucking perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect, and it wasn't. None of it was like over the top, like annoying cliches, tropes, whatever. I get as tired of all the like black tropes and cliches that they've ground into the dirt in movies over the years as I have all the other ones.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that they didn't do that. And she brought like a pretty fresh element and perspective or whatever to it. She was great. She was fantastic, actually. I started reading about her this morning. I was so like into her performance. I just thought she was great.
Let them wait.
I love in general that they tied the whole, they tied the movies together via, Eddie and Arsenio's like speed dating, the like sort of speed dating part of the original movie where they're they're like, sort of interviewing or talking to all those different women. And I just like the idea that she was like one of them. And,
yeah,
I like that they used that scene as sort of like the vehicle to make a son. And yeah.
It was clever.
No, that's a really good point, Ben, because yeah, it was clever. Because, the thing about like, it's funny in the first film, that is like, it's one of the best scenes, but it's so like pure comedy, and it's not necessarily driving the story forward. I mean, it does, but it's a little indulgent as well, So when you rewatch it, I always am like, oh, I can't wait for that scene. I love these two weirdos. Or I love those two weirdos. Or Arsenio Hall dressed in drag, whatever. It's really, really funny.
Yeah, the rapping twins and the way it's
like, it's not
I forget what she says. It's like I worship Satan or something.
I was Joan of Arc in a former life. She's like burning her hand, like it's a funny scene, but it doesn't necessarily drive the plot forward. So I'm kind of expounding on what you guys are saying. So to use that as the vehicle or the device rather to knit these two movies together, I think is totally brilliant. And I didn't even think about that as I was watching it. I was also very tired, but of all the things that you could pick, I'm glad they picked that, because anything else would have been just so done before, kind of cliche. It's like, because the plot of the movie is essentially the reverse of what Akeem did in the first movie,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's pretty brilliant that that's how they knit them two. I think it's pretty brilliant that that's how they knitted them. Jesus, this is a disaster. I'm going to just
It's okay, bro.
give myself a death.
You got it.
I'm dead, firstly.
Just knit them two together.
It fits really well that Leslie
Yes.
Jones is like the off camera kooky lady that happened to be there on that same night. So it fits. It works really well.
It does.
Okay, now what the fuck do you want?
And to your point earlier, Kev, the tropes that are really shitty, like
Yes.
the tropes that are like borderline inappropriate or whatever. I feel like so many of them, like the white bread dude who was like, oh, you didn't have a father figure. Like, it was clear that it was just like poking fun at those tropes, and it was like intentionally poking holes in them. And I enjoyed that about it. I enjoyed that it was like acknowledging all of the bullshit that so many of these tropes have caused, and by making fun of the tropes themselves, it was just like, it was great. I kind of like that element of it.
I did too. And let me add to that. I think that they weren't afraid to do a lot of the jokes that they did in the first one, or in the sense of using the same types of jokes, you know what I mean? Which now in 2021 are not necessarily considered appropriate by society. So I dug how they weren't afraid to do that. And at the same time, sort of poke fun at all of the bullshit that we're going through now, like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I really like that a lot. And you're right about the tropes, poking fun at that. Like even to the point of like him and the barber chick having the conversation about movies and him talking about 30-year sequels. Like I thought that was so perfectly done the way and perfectly written the way that they did that, that it fit in seamlessly, and it was kind of like,
It was a self-aware
it was
movie.
kind of a way of saying, it was kind of a way of saying like, hey, we're not taking ourselves too seriously here. Like we know that this is a 30-year sequel. Like we're having fun.
Yeah, it was
And I
kind
dig
of the Deadpool-ish breaking the fourth wall. Like, I know we're in the movie theater having some fun here. Let's just have some fun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I'm talking to my son.
Let's talk about Eddie Murphy for a second and the first film and Arsenio and the characters that they played.
Yeah.
As I said before in my kind of opening high level, like that idea of dressing up as another character in a film that you're doing, or it could even be done on stage as well. Like that was so appealing to me as a young actor. And I just thought it was so brilliant then. And he kept doing it in a lot of his movies over the years. I think this is probably the strongest one, maybe the best one. I don't know. The Nutty Professor was pretty damn good too, actually. But, Eddie Murphy has always done that. And I think it's part of what makes him so brilliant. He kind of disappeared and laid low for a long time, sort of. Had some movies that didn't do so great, but, it's you can't deny the guy's genius, man. I mean, he was white hot in the 80s. And, watching him and Arsenio, too, because I don't think Arsenio gets enough credit. Like, they portrayed in the original film characters that are so good and so convincing that I almost think of them as their own separate people and characters, like Reverend Brown and Randy Watson, the barbershop guys,
Yeah.
It's so utterly seamless, man, that, and it's so well done. And the makeup is so good that you don't even think about it. Like this time I wasn't even thinking about it. When they go into Mighty Sharp, I was just like, oh, it's Mr. Clarence and, Saul, the old Jewish guy. And like, and there's Clint, the only guy that's, not one of them dressed up, and he kind of rounds out the whole thing and in many ways knits it all together. But I just think that it's brilliant that he did that. And I absolutely loved it. And I absolutely loved it in this one too, man. They didn't miss a beat, and I loved that. I loved that Reverend Brown was just even more disgusting in this one. Right? I mean, like, he's so funny in the first one, man. And then when they walk into that crappy chapel, man, and he's up there and he just looks like hell. And he's not wearing anything underneath that robe, dude. It's just so gross and so great. So they kudos to them, man, in the original. It's a brilliant device. It's a brilliant way to do acting. It's a brilliant way to do comedy, and I absolutely love it and celebrate it. And I love that they did it again in this one. I don't think you could possibly make a sequel to this movie without doing something like that. If I had any kind of gripe, it might have been that they stretched a little bit and did some different characters. I know there was that Shaba, that sort of witch doctor that Arsenio did, that somewhat set the whole thing going in the second one here. But it would have been cool if they had maybe done a few more. Like, it's easy to forget. Actually, no, that's in Nutty Professor. Sorry, Eddie Murphy does like a Richard Simmons type of character that is just so hysterical.
I don't know if you guys watched that recent Michael Jordan documentary, but I'm not like a huge basketball head, but the whole Kobe Bryant as backup to Jordan element to that, I definitely get that feeling with Arsenio and Eddie Murphy. Like, Arsenio can hold his own ground and is a talent in his own right, and then the two of them paired together just were like the secret sauce. Like, they just made the magic happen.
They really did, man.
So I agree with you there.
You're right. Arsenio is great, and he doesn't get enough credit. I really love the characters in these movies that they do, and it's like one of the things you can tell they're having a really good time with it.
Totally.
Right?
You know, it seems like they're having a lot of fun with those characters. And then I loved the witch doctor character
Yeah.
in this new movie. I just thought it was really funny. It's just so over the top and weird and goofy. I just thought it was really funny.
And it was a good sort of original addition to the pantheon of, side characters that they play.
I kind of also thought it was an intentional piss take, like throw out to the Lion King, like when they held the baby up later in the movie. Like there was, and there was a couple of lines where they were referencing Wakanda and shit. Like I totally get, like there was some self-aware, tongue-in-cheek call-outs to other pieces of cinema that are considered in that kind of group or whatever. So I got the like baboon witch doctor vibe from Lion King a little bit in that character as well.
That's a good point, man. And I did,
which is kind of funny.
It is funny, and I like you're right about the Wakanda reference was great.
Yeah,
like that really made me laugh.
I don't know how old it was. We got it ass whooped.
What else did Arsenio do? I'm so vague on a lot of that. I know obviously he had his show, but I can't recall many other movies he did.
I don't know. He did. He had the show for the longest time, and then I know that him and Eddie had some sort of falling out of some kind that lasted for a long time. Yeah, that's my understanding anyway. Without objecting to look it up, and I think that's why there might have been no Coming to America sequel back in the day. I know they did Harlem Nights together not long after that, and Harlem Nights is a really good movie too. It's got a good mix of comedy and action and sort of a noirish feel to it as well. I don't know. I don't really know what else he's done. In terms of films, I remember he did an episode of Chapelle when Chapelle's show was white hot. But beyond that, I don't really know what he's been up to.
I don't know if like Eddie Murphy's great and everything. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he could have carried the original movie on his own. I think Arsenio was just such a critical factor there.
Well, I totally agree with you, man. Like you said, like him teaming up with Arsenio was like the special sauce. Like he can carry a ton on his own. I mean, he did.
Look at Beverly Hills
He's
Cop.
a powerhouse. Like, yeah, like Trading Places. Well, Trading Places, it was kind of him and Dan Aykroyd. But, he's definitely done enough stuff where he's, carried it. But I think for this, he probably would have gotten burned out not having Arsenio there, trying to like, play characters and so forth, and those extra characters, and I don't know,
Yeah.
Damn shame what they did to that dog.
Speaking of the old guard, man, I enjoyed seeing people like Wesley Snipes and Louis Anderson in this one.
Man, I would say, is Ben back?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say that like my biggest like blew me away surprise, even more so than seeing like the Peaches and the other twin, that did the rapping and the beatboxing, was seeing, or the dog girl, the original bride, was like seeing Louis Anderson in the Zamunda McDowell's. Just
so good.
Totally blew my mind. I thought he had passed away. I didn't know he was still around, and like to see him wearing that giant like caftan and like eating the burger. I know, it was just funny, man. I was just so glad he was in it. Like he was perfect. It's like how could you leave him out,
Yeah, he's a great bit character actor or whatever.
And now I'm washing lettuce.
Pretty soon I'll be assistant manager.
Good stuff, man.
That's when the big bucks start coming in.
I'm kind of bummed when we were talking about Bruno the Kid at Brucemas that we didn't talk about Life with Louie, the weird Louis.
Yeah,
Louis Armstrong animated show that was just the weirdest thing ever.
It was, but it was definitely better than Bruno the Kid.
Oh, totally. I remember watching it a lot, so it's just such a funny show.
Yeah, it was. He was a great comedian, man, and I don't know. I feel like he never really got the accolades he deserved, but whatever. It was just great to see him in the mix again, man.
And the new edition of Snipes was interesting too.
Yes, Snipes was good. It was great to see Snipes kind of start to make a comeback in the Expendables, and
I haven't seen any of those still.
He was great in Dolemite, man. He was.
I haven't seen that one either.
Funny, and he was really funny in this too.
Oh, Snipes was in Dolemite?
Yeah.
Wow, how am I forgetting that? Who was he in Dolemite?
He plays the director
Okay. All right. Yeah.
guy. Remember? Yeah.
Huh. I need to watch Dolemite again.
I definitely got a couple of Simon Phoenix vibes with his body language in this one, which was
No
a
doubt.
great little call out to the Demolition Man stuff. So
Watch the Expendables movies if you haven't, man. Yeah, I think he's in the third one, I'm pretty sure, which is my favorite one.
I'll check it out, bro.
And yeah, it is really good to see him, man. They all look really good, man. I mean, everybody looked really good in this movie. Like, it's good to see, like, it's kind of like we talked about with like Space Friends, and like it's similar to like visiting old buddies when you watch a movie like this.
Yeah.
Certainly when you saw the first one back in the day, and it's good to see that everybody looks so good, like Eddie and Wesley Snipes and all those people. I thought Sherry Headley looked really good too, and I was really glad that she was in the movie because I hadn't really seen anything that she did since Coming to America, and I thought she was really fantastic in that first movie. She's a sort of a classic beauty, man, and she was really great in the original. The perfect kind of straight woman to Eddie Murphy in the first one. And very capable as well.
A little girl next door ish.
Yeah, definitely a little. Yes, that's good. That's good. Yeah, little girl next door. She was great, dating the jerky guy that like her dad wants her to marry.
Tropey, but like totally fit the bill in terms of
totally
the
man.
unachievable girl who's amazing and dating the asshole that you want to date kind of thing.
And I think that she was sort of kind of like after the fact, one of my, one of the things I loved about the first one, is how really good she was, so it was great to see her back in the limelight for this one, not having another actress play it or,
Yeah, for sure.
not having her there at all, I think would have been crappy.
The only gripe of Kev I have about her character in the second movie is when she confronts Hakeem towards the end and boots him out of the bedroom. She kind of like gets choked up and starts crying, and I was kind of like, I didn't really feel like that was true to the character. Not that she chose that, like it might have been direction or whatever, but I felt like they were really going for the like strong, woman vibe throughout the film. And it kind of rhymed with how awesome Akeem's mother was in the first film, like how much of a bedrock she was for the decisions that were being made. That I kind of griped a little bit in that scene. I feel like she just would have been like, Akeem, go fuck yourself, not like, oh, treat our daughters nice, whatever. So
Yeah, right.
it was a little gripey heavy, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, that is pretty gripe-heavy. I'm analyzing the qualities of the gripe.
She was just so tough. Like she knows what she was a hard ass in the first movie. I thought Lisa, she didn't fuck around. Like when they
No, she was tough. That was great. What was great about her?
Sprung the whole engagement on her in the dinner party. She's just like, fuck you, bro. And I liked that.
Yeah, right.
Right. More in character for her to get angry than maudlin.
Yeah, then to start getting bubbly or blubbery.
Yeah, she was more fire. Yeah, definitely.
I really wish Randall was in this one, man. I guess he passed on it because he was doing other stuff, but he's just such a flubby character in the first movie, man. I love him.
Wait, who?
Soul Glow, bro.
Oh, LaSalle.
Yeah.
God, man. Daryl, yeah.
Daryl, sorry, not Randall. That's a death.
That is a death.
I feel like he would have done
he's
a great job in this one.
He's a total douchebag.
Yeah, but it's like
this eye rock and the way they dressed him in the first movie was just it's like comedic in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like some of the outfits he was wearing.
Like the sad puppy dog thing.
At the very end of the movie, that is one of the funny parts. It's like banging. It's raining outside, and he's banging on. He's banging on the sister's door, and she lets him in. She's like, "Oh, we got to get you out of those wet clothes." And he just kind of like gives the camera a knowing look. Good stuff.
So 80s.
Sorry, Eric. It's Eric LaSalle, who's great. He was on ER for a long time. Excellent actor.
I was
man.
too.
Like, could not pick somebody better to play Daryl in the original film. He was so damn funny, man. And I was gonna drop this as a nugget, but I'll just say it now. Like, we got. Did you notice in Mighty Sharp how he had a spray can of Soul Glow sitting on the counter? There's a quick shot of it, man.
No, I saw the poster at one point, I guess.
A hallmark of ancient barbershops is like the posters of products from 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was no exception. So yeah, I just dug there were little things like that thrown in here and there that were great. They weren't too like fan servicey in an annoying way, So it was like great to see the can of Soul Glow there.
No doubt, man. Soul Glow is one of the like highlights of the original movie. Like the family leaving the fucking head marks on the couch thing, and that's just so silly.
And like how they turned one of my favorite things is how they created a product with a commercial and a theme song.
Dude, the theme song is epic.
It is epic, man.
It's so good.
It's so good, man. And then what's even better than that is that they took the theme song and they used the theme song as the basis for like some of the score music. Like, so like whenever Daryl would make an appearance henceforth of the Soul Glow commercial, it was like you get some of that Soul Glow sax, that was like his kind of entrance music. I just thought that was awesome, man.
Back on the sax train, huh?
Oh yeah, the sax. Can't get away from it, dude. It's just so good. So yeah, that's a bummer about Eric LaSalle. I wish he had been in the movie.
I feel like he was a missing piece. Like obviously,
yeah,
Akeem's mother was a missing piece as she passed away in the mid '90s, which sucks, obviously. But between him, like it would have been nice for like a Cuba Gooding Jr.
Geordi LaForge's mom. She passed away in the mid '90s.
Evidently, yeah, she passed away of cancer in the mid '90s. The queen in the
that's
original.
A bummer.
Yeah,
well, that's a bummer, man.
I would have liked to have seen like a little Cuba Gooding Jr. cameo too.
Ooh, yes, you're right. That was like one of his first things, man.
And like you said too, Sam Jackson and stuff. Like you think they'd jump on board just because it's funny, but maybe not.
Well, it's just because it's fun too, man. It's like, why not? It's like
yeah.
fun to see old friends. I think that's sort of our sort of consensus seems to be that it's like, it's similar to Space Friends. It's like going to visit old buddies. You watch this and it looks like fun, and it looks like they all had fun and. You're kind of having fun with them, man.
Yeah. I think you said it best, Benny, that they would have had a blast on set. It really seemed like that would have been the case for sure.
Yes.
Fuck you, and fuck you. Who's next?
Yo, a few minutes back, probably quite a few minutes back, Kev, you started a meandering session about the barbershop characters, and I think it's worth I didn't really think about it at the time watching the sequel, but high fives all around to how good of a job they did recreating that makeup, man. Holy shit. The fact that you really couldn't tell the difference between the two movies in terms of just the characters were the same, even though they had developed new makeup and aged the characters and stuff, they did a great job.
Yeah, I agree. I talked about the characters in Arsenio and Eddie. I didn't really spend too much time talking about the makeup, but one thing that was great about the makeup was that, they recreated the makeup and they updated it to make them look even older.
Yeah.
That's sort of part of what was so great about it. Ditto the Reverend, ditto Randy Watson. They didn't leave anybody out.
The barbershop characters are just so important.
Iconic.
So just being back in the barbershop, even if it wasn't as funny as the original, it was just so nice to be back in the barbershop and hear them all talking shit.
Well, I think that the barbershop characters are iconic, man. Really, at this point, 30 years later. And they're also, they're tropey too. They're based on those barbershops down in New York where it's three old black dudes cutting hair and talking shit about boxers all day. I mean, it's but the thing that's so cool to me is that, they're iconic characters, almost like they're real people. That's what I was saying before. Eddie and Arsenio in makeup, it's so good and so convincing. You think of those characters as real people, not Eddie in makeup, and so for them, those characters to become so iconic throughout the years is just it's even more icing on the cake, especially for those two.
You said it.
They're real New York troped out for sure.
No doubt.
Which is such a great part of the original movie, where it's like, where should we go? Heads New York, tails L.A. Oh, we'll go to Queens. Like, it's just so silly, but I don't know. Maybe as an American, immediately that like how poor of a choice it was and how funny it's going to be as a result.
And what a brilliant thing for the original movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny how even growing up as close to New York as I did, not even thinking about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in the sense that it caught me off guard. It was brilliant as like a story device, and in the sense that like Queens was such a dump.
Yeah.
Especially back then.
Before all of the bullshit.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that Akeem seems extremely well educated, like he's quoting Nietzsche and stuff, but somehow he's too naive to understand that Queens, New York is not the place to go find your queen,
Yeah.
I
I kind of love it too, but you're dead right.
Yeah, that's I think that's part of his brilliance in the first one, is his naivety, man, but he also very much wanted to live like a regular person. I think he was kind of anxious to take a break from being a prince or royalty for a little while in the first movie.
Yeah.
Very much, yes.
It wouldn't have worked in LA or anywhere else. I think the fact that it's New York, and at that time in New York, it was still pretty hardcore. It really, like the opening bit, he halts the taxi, and the taxi's like Joey Buttafuoco over here, and fucking strapping all those suitcases up, and it's just the whole opening sequence is just perfection.
Yeah.
I think the kind of like courtship love story element of the first one is a huge strength. Didn't really feel it as much this time around on the second one, but the Akeem seeing Lisa on stage and being smitten and dropping the money into the thing, and then him just like, I need to figure out where she is, and mopping in front of her office over and over again, that goes all the way through the basketball game to the engagement scene. It's just like it's a tight central act of the film that I think was a real strength of the film.
I agree with you, and I think that this one, that was one of the things that I was going to bring up, was that I didn't feel like they gave the romance with the royal hairdresser enough due, and it was a shame too, because she was a great actress and she was very sweet, and the character was very sweet, and the perfect match for Lavelle. Is it Lavelle or Laval?
I think it's Lavelle.
I think it's Laval. So I didn't think the courtship lasted long enough. I guess it's sort of gripey. I don't know. Didn't really wish there was a little more meat to it. I think it would have lent a little more weight, because I agree with you, Chad. Like, that courtship part was totally central to the original, and I think that that's something that everybody can identify with.
Mm-hmm.
On some level, at some point, somebody has liked some member of the opposite sex, or the same sex for that matter, that didn't know that they liked them, and they were kind of trying to get in there, as it were. And so it was very familiar as well, and that made it very endearing and likable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you get your dickhead wingman blowing it at every turn with the remodeling the apartment stuff.
Yeah, the hot tub, baby, totally.
The fucking Western Union scene.
I know.
All right, I'll take your apartment. You can have mine. It's a real shithole. You'll love it.
Yeah, that guy. He was missing from this movie.
Frankie Faison, yeah, man.
Yeah, Frankie Faison, man, exactly. It would have been great just to get like a little teeny Scotia him, man. All he needed to do was open the door and like berate somebody. That would have been perfect. And then that was it. It's all we needed, man, just to be like, there he is.
Now, see, they got the Big Mac. I got the Big Mick.
The other thing about the original film that I love is, and this is something that I love in any movie, Tarantino's done this a couple times. We've seen this in plenty of movies where they create fake products.
Apple cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. The red Apple cigarettes. I love making fun of consumerism, and making fun of products is such a great way to do it. And when they created, like, the lengths they went to create Soul Glow and McDowell's Restaurant in this movie were just excellent. And they put so much energy into it, man, and really wove it into the story. And we see a bit of that in the second one as well. But in the first one, it's just great and it's iconic. Nobody will ever forget McDowell's restaurant. It's like you could mention it walking down the street and somebody will know what you're talking about. I mean, to the point that I was dating a girl who was living in Queens, like, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. And I would drive down there to see her. And at one point, I pulled out Google Maps and I looked for 8507 Queens Boulevard, which is where McDowell's restaurant was. I even drove by the location to see if I could find if there was an actual something. Firstly, if there was an actual address and if there was something there. And I was disappointed to find that there was nothing there. But that's how iconic it was, to me. Like it was, and the way Reverend Brown says it at the fundraiser, it's just so funny, man. And I don't know, I just kudos to the crew and the writers and all of that in the first film for creating like such a prolific, fake, sort of poking fun at consumerism product, man. Especially to poke fun at McDonald's like that, I think is fantastic.
And especially considering it was the 80s.
Especially when like McDonald's was super popular and
I guess McDonald's was down with it. They were like, yeah, cool, just like drop a bunch of McDonald's, just say our name a bunch, and they gave them the sign off, which is interesting. I loved the African Ronald McDonald dude with the face paint stuff. It was really tongue in cheek in this one.
Yeah, that was good. Ben, you had something a second ago, Ben? What were we going to say?
I was just thinking back to the first movie where like I forget who it is, but somebody walks in and like totally catches Cleo McDowell like reading the management playbook for McDonald's or whatever.
Is that what he does?
Yeah.
Wow, I think I missed that. Man.
I think I did too, but now that you say it, I'm like, yeah. I think it's when Akeem comes in. He's like, did you see the gridiron game where the man kicked the ball through the H?
That might have been it. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's totally, he's in his office and he's totally just leafing through like, the
training manual or something.
Perfect, man. I don't think I ever noticed that.
That's fucking hilarious.
Did you happen to catch the professional sports contest on television last night?
Fuck, I love the sports ball trope, and that's just like the perfect one.
Yeah, so good, man. I think it's great about McDowell's too. Like, and a lot of this is like John Amos is he's part of the brilliance of this is how they perfectly skated the line in the first movie of him being like this brilliant guy who made something similar and yet indifferent from McDonald's, and a guy that's just barely below ripping it off completely. You know what I mean? I think, like, I don't know. That was one of the great things about McDowell's, and it was like you couldn't, there were times where you couldn't exactly tell, like because of what, like you always say in the show, Chad, like he was so confident in the way that he dialed it in. That sometimes you're like, oh, what, he's really smart, and then other times you're like, this guy's just a ripoff artist. Like what Ben just said, like, reading the McDonald's like management book, that he probably broke in and stole it or used to work there or whatever.
That's funny because I think I always assumed, because of that confidence, I always assumed that it was like McDonald's stole his idea, not that he was stealing from McDonald's. I don't know why I always made that assumption, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, you know what, dude? I gotta say, I am really surprised that nobody has made a McDowell's restaurant,
right?
Like in and around that area in Queens or elsewhere, like that. Probably because they would get totally
Super McDonald's. Yeah, maybe.
I forget what it was, but on Halloween, we think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but on some year fairly recently. Of course, pre-pandemic, some restaurant did on Halloween rebranded themselves as McDowell. Like they did, their costume was they were McDowell's for the day, basically.
So good.
And they changed their menu, and they had the outfits, and they had the sign and everything. They totally dialed it up.
That does ring a bell. I think we did talk about it. That's fantastic. It's like when
That
they made
is,
the
yeah.
Seinfeld apartment for some promo a few years back. You could go and visit. I just love that kind of shit.
Yeah, I did too, man. Like that's a really cool one too.
But it's just like it's such a believable thing, and it's such a hub for the first movie.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of the movie is filmed in McDowell's, and it revolves around working at McDowell's. So that, like, it's like I wish somebody had done a spin-off, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like where
Like a
it's just
sitcom
like,
or something?
yeah, sitcom where it's like, you know, the people that work at McDowell's and like the crazy shit that happens in there. Like, you know, like I would watch that.
I'd watch
I
that
would watch
now,
it too.
man, if they like spun something off.
Dude, that is a killer idea, man. Like, you know, in this day and age with the way that, you know, sort of TV and film are blended a little bit more, like we've seen with like the Marvel universe and so forth, they totally could do a tie-in like that today, man.
Yeah.
Like I would definitely watch that.
And have it be like Louis Anderson's the manager or something.
Oh God, Louis and you got to, you know, get John Amos in there as well.
Definitely.
One little sort of nuggety thing, I don't know if you guys caught this or not, was did you notice what the newscaster on CNN?
Yeah.
And then James Earl Jones did the voiceover
That
for
was
it?
Great.
This is CNN.
That was Trevor Noah, I guess, which I didn't realize till I read about it after.
Really?
The newscaster, yeah. That's Tracy Morgan scene with Arsenio where they're like on split screen CNN and they just like cross over the room and start beating each other up, man. Like those two were great foils for each other, Tracy Morgan and Arsenio. I liked the pairing there.
Yeah, it was. That was a good pairing.
How about all the dance sequences and stuff and like James Earl Jones's funeral where he actually dies in it and then they're like, and now en Vogue. I fucking lost it at that, man. And Salt-N-Pepa. I was just like, they clearly were like, who can we call up and get in here? And I loved it. It was hilarious.
No, I loved the addition of all of that. And I think that, you know, seeing Salt-N-Pepa in there was just great.
And in Vogue, man. Like they were fucking popping off in the 90s.
I just love that James Earl Jones like called his own funeral. Like,
yeah.
It's like, I think let's go to my funeral right now. You know, they just pulled it together like that.
Yeah.
And like he was so pleased with it. He was like, okay, I'll die at this one. You had the impression that like maybe he had done it before, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Every few years. It's the perfect Jaffe Joffer. It's exactly what he would do.
It is what Jaffe Joffer would do. Exactly.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, this is total ejection. I'm just going to go ahead and mark that death down. But this is worth it, man. All right, going back to McDowell's for a second. I just found on the New Jersey website that there is going to be a pop-up McDowell's coming to the Cherry Hill Mall in April. So like in literally like 2 weeks. You have to get tickets, but it will...
you got to try and do that, bro.
Yeah, that's not that far, man. I could.
I don't think I can make it.
Yeah, I guess Kev is marginally closer than I am, but still, we have by comparison of Australia. But
if I go to that venue, I actually won't be allowed back in Australia. Like they're not. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to get back in. So I don't think I'll be able to attend.
Well, I found an article about the place. It was a place in Chicago that Ben was referencing that dressed up like McDowell's on Halloween, which I think is super cool, you know. But this is kind of cool too. So I guess this is part of some.
That's super cool, man. You should totally try and do it.
Yeah, I might. I mean, Kevin Smith has been doing like movies.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Restaurants, you know, which I think is really cool too, man. And it's like, you know, why not?
If
why doesn't somebody just make a
If you really wanted to raise the stakes here, you could whip together a homemade Wolverine outfit and go to that thing. That's really where it's at.
Name tag that says, "Hi, my name is Wolverine."
Yeah, exactly. I bet you $20 you could get the Stallones down there with you.
Oh, dude, that would be easy, man.
You guys, we should do a Stallones with the Stallones live show. Me and Benny will phone in, or I'll phone in to you guys down there. That'd be fucking hilarious. Like in the parking lot of a McDowell's.
Right? I wish I had. Oh, there you go, man. I wish I had like the goofy Wolverine facial hair that spawned my namesake.
Yeah, could always like get a weave or something. You know, get a fake stash.
A weave, yeah. There you go.
Facial weave.
facial weave. I'll just use like disguises, like KGB agents used to use. Mustaches, sideburns, beards, wigs.
Yeah, a facial weave.
That was a borderline. You're dealing with an expert. Mustaches, wigs, sideburns.
Trautman. Oh man.
That's right. He gonna always be Clay to me. I don't give a fuck what chain name to. He is Clay. He Clay to me. I say Clay.
I feel like we're in Bits and Bob's territory.
Yeah. Okay. Bits and Bobs.
This is a good movie. That's my bit.
Wow. Groundbreaking. Earth shattering. What do you got, Ben? Bit and or Bob? Favorite
notable
thing?
Scenes.
Bit. Notable scenes.
We've gone over a lot of it. I thought the witch doctor character was hilarious. I really liked Wesley Snipes' character.
Yeah,
I thought he was great.
I did too.
Reading a story to the kids.
You know, I guess the things that are sticking out to me were the additions. You know, new characters, new actors in it. You know, Wesley Snipes and Tracy Morgan and Leslie Jones, and you know how they played out in the movie. I thought were great. I can't remember the guy's name, but you know, Akeem's son was great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the new stuff was good. That didn't take anything away from it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like earth shattering, but it wasn't like, oh, fuck this, you know?
Yeah. Which is risky.
Hard to weave those things together sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think they did it pretty well.
Yeah, and it didn't take away from the first film either.
No.
Which is always a risk when you do, you know, like a sequel like this or whatever. I think anyway. What about you, Chad? Is that it? Just that one thing?
I don't know. I don't really know. Nothing comes to mind. I think you said it well, Benny. Like the Tracy Morgan stuff, he didn't have a huge part, but he was funny. Leslie Jones, I think, just murdered this. Like she was so good.
Yeah, she kind of stole the show.
She really did, man. She really stole the show. And I'm totally on board with that. The three daughters were good, too. I liked them. They were cool. Evidently, the middlingest one was Eddie Murphy's actual daughter, so that's interesting.
That's also a nugget snipe.
Hey. Yeah. I guess the only other kind of shout out in terms of the original movie that I don't know, because I haven't seen this movie in like 6 months, forgot about the reveal at the end where she says no on the subway car and then she's actually like surprises him at his own wedding, which I kind of, it's like, oh, no. I pinched my own cheek at that one. It's just a good movie.
You mean the hairdresser chick did
No,
that?
no, in the original movie, at the end of the original movie.
I loved that at the end of the original movie. Like, that was like the best surprise of the movie.
Yeah, it shouldn't have surprised anybody, but it totally surprises me every time. Even today, when
I
watched it for like the 70th time, I was like, oh, yeah. No.
You just made me think of the subway lady.
Go ahead, honey. Take a chance.
Take a chance.
Yes, the subway lady was awesome.
I love the subway lady.
Yeah.
I wish she was in this one.
And the other one that says she'll marry him and he gives her $500,000 earrings. This is a classic. An absolute classic.
Bits and Bobs. Well, I think as I gushed about the other characters that Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall play, one of my favorite things about the first movies, that plus, you know, fake products. I'm a sucker for a good fake product. And Soul Glow and McDowell's Restaurant were just the best. Probably still the best of any movie to date. And it was great to see both of them back in the second one as well, you know?
With the grass burger.
Yeah, I mean, Ben kind of said it all. I mean, Leslie Jones just crushed it. And Jermaine Fowler was great, you know? It's like you're going to bring two new main characters in. Like, they were just awesome. So kudos to them, man. You know, and kudos to the whole gang for, you know, writing a story that was pretty damn solid for a 30-year later sequel. That's it.
I know we talked about it briefly before, but one of my favorite things about both movies was Randy Watson and Sexual Chocolate.
Oh,
and I
man,
was
yeah.
super delighted at the end of this latest one when that's sort of how they wrapped up the show. Like, it was just, what did they even play? What song was it? I forget.
I can't remember. It should be a death.
Well, I guess we're all dead now.
Sorry, I got distracted for a second by something else. What was going on, Ben? What did you say?
Neither of us could remember what song Randy Watson and Sexual Chocolate play in this newest movie.
In the new one?
Yeah.
It's We Are Family.
Was it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's Who did that? Sly and the Family Stone, or
Yeah, it would have been. I think Sly. Yeah, I think it is.
the original? Right? It was Sly and the Family Stone. I think it was either that or
Isn't that right, Sly?
Cool in the Gang. Wait, what?
I was just making a Sly joke. I said, "Isn't that right?"
I thought you were. Okay. It was either them or Cool in the Gang. I don't know if we can get a.
It's actually Sister Sledge.
Oh, damn it, Sister
that's a
Sledge. I don't know if that's a death, but I'll put it down. Death for who? All of us?
You and I.
Well, anyways, it was just masterfully done. Eddie Murphy doing the guy who fancies himself a great singer, but is kind of tone deaf, and just that's what's really funny about it in the first movie where they do we are the world, but yeah, it's
with the barbershop dude being
delightful.
pumped about it again too.
Yeah,
Damn, that boy's good.
I know.
You must be crazy.
Everybody I love how everybody was psyched that Randy Watson was about to come out on stage in the second one.
Yeah.
I was psyched.
All the oldies were, but all the kids were like, what the fuck? Whereas in the original, nobody except for that one barbershop dude was pumped.
God, everybody was so lackluster in the first one when Randy Watson was on stage. It was great. It was part of what made the whole scene just brilliant.
Might be the first ever recorded incident of a mic drop.
Oh, you son of a bitch. You sniped me. I love that.
What was it?
Eddie Murphy claims it was the first ever mic drop. Yep.
Ah!
Nice snipe.
Wow, I love that I sniped you with speculation.
Yep.
I love it.
It's a worthy snipe.
Shit, that ain't nothing but ultra firm. Tell me how you want me to cut this.
Okay, Nuggets deaths ratings.
Yeah, man. Rock and roll.
What do you got for Nuggets? You started off.
I got nothing, bro.
Nothing?
I had 2 nuggets and you each sniped one.
Nice. Wow, Ben. This is like
That's
a
a first.
momentous occasion.
I like it.
We destroyed Chad at his own game
Yep.
of death.
Yep. It's okay.
I like it. All right, I got 2 quickies. Well, 3 actually. I guess Craig Brewer, who directed this film, I guess he directed Dolemite as well, and that's where Eddie Murphy got the idea to ask him to direct this movie, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Nothing crazy, minor nugget. This one's a little bit better. I didn't pick this up I didn't pick up on this until I read it, but Eddie Murphy's daughter, who plays in the movie, his daughter Mika, is Akeem spelled backwards.
Yo, did you know
Just
that palindromes are the same forwards and backwards?
All those palindrome people are their mouth is starting to water.
Yeah. I know, right? I know. Palindrome. That gets my award for possibly my dumbest moment ever on the podcast.
I love it.
Okay, my final nugget is that I cannot believe this, man. Like I think we were all stoked Tracy Morgan was in this movie. Like he was great. It was great to see him. Eddie Murphy wanted Tracy Morgan to play Lavelle in this movie.
I don't know how that would have worked.
Arsenio Hall objected and pointed out that they were like almost the same age. He was like, yeah, that's not going to work. And I guess Eddie Murphy was like, he's like, we'll work it out.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work. So I don't know. I think it's crazy that he wanted Tracy Morgan to play Lavelle. Like, I don't know if he was, I could see him as like an older son, maybe, that he goes and discovers. And I could see some good comedy there potentially. But I think going with like the young kid was probably the better direction.
Probably a good choice. Yeah.
Right?
Considering the story they actually went with, yeah, obviously, that only would make sense.
Totally.
There was a cool little nugget where Zamunda was actually taken from a Richard Pryor bit, which I kind of liked. It was the name of an African tribe in a Richard Pryor bit. I'm glad that impressed you.
Not surprising, as Richard Pryor was a huge influence for Eddie.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty sure Eddie credits Richard Pryor as being his main influence.
You ejecting again,
Totally.
Kev?
Nope. Just sitting here quietly with my thoughts.
What were you reading about?
Well, if I don't say anything about what I was looking at, then it
doesn't count, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I guess that's not true. It doesn't count because it's. I think we established earlier that it's really about just disappearing.
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of.
I heard the canopy open.
Yeah.
Tree falls in the woods and no one's
Exactly,
around.
Ted.
Does it still make a sound?
If Kev pulls the ejection lever, flies out of the cockpit, and nobody hears it, did it happen?
Aha!
Okay, so deaths. Are we done?
Yeah,
with
we're
nuggets?
good, man. You wrecked a lot of airplanes today.
Yeah, I did. I know. All right, Chad, you had a
What do you
Star
think
Wars
the
death?
McDowell's version of Chicken McNuggets was called?
McDuggets?
Hmm.
McDenders? I don't know. No, that's stupid. Actually, they're both stupid.
Food for thought.
Pose the question to the fans.
You just did.
Okay,
Let us
there
know
you have
what you
it.
think.
Yeah, let us know what you think, folks. What would the McDowell's version of Chicken McNuggets be? Cleo Nugs? Maybe? Cleo Nugs? No.
Maybe.
That was a death. Speaking of deaths, that was a death. That was terrible. I love how this death section seems to grow exponentially when we get to the end of the show. All right, so deaths. We had a Star Wars death for Chad, Matrix death for Ben. I ejected on the
And a Star Wars
writers. I ejected on. I couldn't speak. Chad thought Daryl's name was Randall, which I loved.
Yep. You're welcome.
I ejected on McDowell's. Chad and I both died on Sister Sledge. I ejected on nothing.
A McNibble?
And I died on Cleo Nugs. What?
I propose McNibble.
Ooh,
It's not bad.
it's not bad at all, dude. It's pretty strong.
It's better than McChicken Chunk.
Well, in keeping with his naming scheme, I think that works. You know, it's like the Big Mick, the Flurby.
It's almost the same.
Yeah, like it has to be super close. So I think that's a good one, Chad.
McDowell's Chicken McNibbles.
Yeah, that works, man.
That's it, I think.
That works.
Good. If somebody else comes up with something better, we'll send you a autographed T-shirt as soon as we have them made.
There you go.
We require a room that is very poor.
Okay, ratings. Let's talk ratings. Let's rate both the films.
Roger Dodger.
Algorithm, you go first.
Okay. This sequel, in my view, is not as good as the Bill and Ted sequel, but it's pretty good. Like, I enjoyed it. The Bill and Ted sequel got a 4.1, which is like borderline territory. I think it's just like these sequels in general are going to always be borderline because you're almost always not going to succeed in capturing similar lightning in a bottle. So the 4-ish rating isn't really an indication to not watch it, but it's a sequel. It's unlikely to beat a bunch of original films. So the new Coming to America gets a 4.1. The old Coming to America is one of the best comedies ever. It's a fantastic movie. It gets an 8.2.
A 4.2?
8.2.
That's for the original or for this one?
The original. Yeah. The new one is 4.1 and the original is 8.2.
Okay, that's good. No, I like that they're exactly 50%.
Yeah, pretty much.
Apart, yeah. That's good. That's good for the algorithm.
Yeah, the original is in like Ghostbusters, Blues Brothers territory. Like, it's a fucking good movie.
Definitely. Yeah, it's up there.
No doubt.
It is up there.
Do we have a improbability rating this week, Ben?
Yeah, I think I have something that encapsulates my feelings towards coming to America. That's coming number 2 America. In the original film, there's the scene where they're all at the fundraiser. There's a quick little part where 2 women are talking and one says to the other, "I like McDonald's French fries better, but I'd never tell Mr. McDowell that."
Yep.
That's sort of how I feel about this film. That encapsulates it perfectly.
Okay.
I like it.
I like it. Perfect.
It's the McDowell's French fries to the McDonald's French fries of the original.
I like it. That's perfect.
Yeah, well said, man. God, I wish I had something as clever and humorous as that. I don't. I think the first film gets a 10. It's just iconic, like Chad said, like Ben said. It's up there with Blues Brothers, Trading Places, like all these iconic films from the 80s and 90s. The second one it's an excellent sequel, so far removed from the first one. And I think they did a good job. Did they do as good a job as, say, Blade Runner 2049? No. But, it's a comedy and it's harder to do. I think that they were able to make a cohesive script, you know, that had good humor in it and get pretty much every single person from the original movie back, with the exception of Frankie Faison and Eric LaSalle, is a feat in and of itself. So I'll give this second movie I'm going to give it a 6.5, which I feel is actually a little bit low, you know.
That's reasonable.
It was definitely, yeah, it's reasonable. It was a quality movie, you know, and
it is a bit low for you, but I think it's a reasonable number.
yeah, I was really thinking more like 7.5, but I'm going to stick with my 6.5, you know, like, because I wasn't like laughing and howling, you know. It's more like nostalgia funny, where you're like, oh, that's funny, you know, like my funny center in my brain recognizes the humor, but it's not making me like, you know, vomit out guffaws of laughter. So there you have it. Sassy Squirrel Lab, what are we doing next week?
Next week we're doing Strange Days.
Ooh. All right, wow, that sounds exciting. So there you go, folks. Join us next week for Strange Days. After that, we're going to be doing Galaxy Quest. That's sure to be exciting. And thank you for joining us on this, I don't know, breakdown of Coming to America and Coming to America. Ha, 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 ha. That was terrible. That's a death. And we will see you on another time. Okay? Thanks so much, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
You know, you can be all the things you've always wanted to be. Beautiful, sexy, easy as 1, 2, 3.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode, folks. You can find the show notes in your podcast app of choice or on our website, ebd.fm/episodes/101. If you'd like to support the show, there's a bunch of great ways to do it. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/EBD podcast. There are many tiers for you to enjoy. EBD goodness. You can also rate us and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast nuggleberries. You can also tell somebody to check out the show. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful and incredibly important, so please tell all of your friends to check out the show. Don't forget to follow us on social, folks. We use the handle @EBD Podcast on pretty much every social media platform, so please jump in, join in, and follow us. Thanks for joining us for Coming to America and Coming to America, and we'll see you next week for Strange Days. So long, folks.
I kind of wanted to do like a, yes, fuck you too.
Feel like we were...
You should have. Yes! Yes! Fuck you! Fuck you too!
There you got it. You got it right there.
Beady, beady, beady. Aha!